The sky over Vantage 3 rippled like a torn sheet of metal. Commander Lee Ariston stood on the colony's air defense balcony, staring upward as the clouds split apart and something enormous pushed through, sleek, bone-white, and bristling with claws of obsidian metal. The first Karzul warship emerged with a predatory grace, followed by 4 more, each dropping into low orbit like vultures settling around a corpse. The alarms began a heartbeat later. Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. Colonists flooded the evacuation lanes. Children cried. Engineers abandoned half-built solar towers. Even the defensive drones flinched as the alien fleet cast its shadow across the city. But Lee didn't flinch. She tapped her comm. This is Commander Ariston. Defense stations, report. Static. Then a panicked voice. Commander, grid is failing. They're jamming every channel. Lee clenched her jaw. The Karzul, the most ruthless plunder species in the Orion Spur, had chosen Vantage 3. A small colony. Lightly armed. Perfect prey. Except for one thing. Humans don't stay prey. A thunderous streak split the sky as a Karzul cruiser fired its first atmospheric blast. The city trembled. A skyscraper collapsed in a bloom of dust and flying steel. Civilians screamed. Lee spoke calmly into her comm. All units, defensive fallback pattern, evac alpha. Prioritize non-combatants. Marines, form a perimeter at the Ark spire. A young Marine jogged up beside her, helmet askew, sweat pouring down his face. Commander, command says we don't have enough firepower to hold. They're recommending partial surrender. Lee turned slowly. You're new here, aren't you? Ma'am, we don't surrender. Ever. She walked past him, boots ringing against the steel walkway, and descended into the command bunker built under the defense tower. Dust shook loose with every distant impact. Inside, holographic screens flickered with red warnings. Shield grid, offline. Comm relays, offline. Orbital cannons, overridden. Evac corridors, compromised. The Karzul had studied them well. But not well enough. Lee knelt beside a sealed black case at the back of the bunker. Her palm unlocked it. Inside lay a single device, small, matte black, with a recessed switch protected under a transparent shield. A Marine gasped. Commander, is that? Yes, Lee said. Protocol Black Star. The retaliation signal. Earth had made it for when, not if, someone tried to wipe out a colony so fast the local defense network couldn't respond. A button that said, "Hit humanity," and we hit back harder. No colony commander had ever activated it. Until now. A blast rocked the bunker. Lights flickered. Dust poured from the ceiling. Screams echoed from outside as Karzul shock troops landed in the outer district. Lee flipped open the shield. Another Marine hesitated. Ma'am, Black Star means total retaliation. Terran High Command will wipe this assault off the map. No negotiations. No mercy. Lee's voice didn't shake. They chose this. And she pressed the switch. A single pulse of encrypted subspace energy shot through every jammer, every blockade. It slipped between frequencies like a ghost, bypassing the Karzul's interference. And Earth heard it. Every Terran outpost heard it. Every allied human fleet captain heard it. Protocol Black Star activated. Retaliation authorized. Lee stood. Now, she said, we fight. Orbit above Vantage 3. Karzul flagship Scourge of Dawn. Commander Vrixith the Dominant flexed his talons as he watched the colony burn. His dark mandibles clicked in amusement. Weak. As expected. His second-in-command, Rauxer, bowed low. Should we prepare the extraction torches, Exalted One? Let them run, Vrixith purred. Fear makes the harvest so much sweeter. Another bridge officer hissed suddenly. My lord, subspace spike detected. Origin, planetary surface. Vrixith frowned. Terran comm chatter? No, Exalted One. A coded pulse. Rauxer's eyes widened. Not their retaliation protocol? Vrixith scoffed. Humans lack the resolve to. But then the long-range sensors lit up. Something massive was cutting through subspace. Dozens of signatures. No subtlety. No warning. Warships, furious, unmasked, burning at higher-than-safe translation speed. Vrixitha's mandibles froze. Impossible, he whispered. Back on the ground. The first landing shrieks of Karzul infantry echoed as their armored forms leapt from drop skiffs, claws gleaming, toxin spines flaring in the sunlight. Civilians stumbled back. A doctor shielded children behind a fallen column. A Karzul warrior raised its talon to strike. An rail shot punched a hole straight through its torso. Lee strode into the street with a squad of Marines behind her, rifles hot, armor scorched, eyes blazing. "We hold," she roared. "This is our world." The Marines formed a half-moon defensive arc. Plasma fire tore through the street as firefights erupted across the evacuation zone. A Marine shouted over the gunfire, "Commander! Orbital readings show multiple Terran signatures approaching fast." Lee grinned savagely. "They heard us. Orbit again." The stars tore open. The Terran Black Star fleet arrived. The human dreadnought TDS Revenant burst into real space in a rippling shockwave, her hull etched with retaliatory markings. Behind her came the Indomitable, the Soul's Wrath, the Aurora, and 20 more cruisers, each one streaming blue-white engine plumes like burning lances. They didn't decelerate gently. They arrived angry. Admiral Rian Soren stood on the bridge of the Revenant, eyes cold as ice. "Target Karzul flagship," he commanded. "Weapons free." His gunnery officer hesitated. "Sir, a declaration of hostilities?" "Protocol Blackstar is the declaration." The forward plasma lance fired. A line of incandescent fury stabbed into the Karzul formation. One cruiser detonated instantly. A second spiraled into the atmosphere in a trail of flame. The galaxy had always joked that humans fought like cornered animals. They had never actually seen it. On the ground, every soldier paused as the sky turned brilliant white. The thunder of orbital fire rolled across the atmosphere like the roar of a vengeful god. Marines cheered. Civilians stared in awe. Lee didn't cheer. She simply whispered, "Welcome to the real fight." She raised her rifle, pointed at the encroaching Karzul line, and shouted, "Retaliation has begun. Advance!" And the humans surged forward. The arrival of the Terran Black Star fleet changed everything. Where moments ago the sky had been a canvas of smoke and falling debris, it was now blazing with white-blue streaks of retaliatory fire. The Karzul formation buckled under the onslaught, ships twisting apart in incandescent blossoms, hulls rupturing as human plasma lances carved precise lines through their armor. But the war was far from over. On the surface of Vantage 3, the fighting grew even more desperate. Commander Lee Ariston sprinted through the ruins of District Theta, her armor tagged with soot and alien blood. Marshalling the evac Marines into formation, she shouted over the constant thunder of atmospheric detonations. "Push forward! Retake the Arc Spire corridor by corridor." Her Marines responded with a fierce, "Yes, Commander." The ground trembled as another Karzul drop skiff slammed into the street ahead, its doors ripping open with a bone-like hiss. 4 towering Karzul shock troops emerged, toxin glands glowing sickly purple. A rookie Marine stumbled back. "Commander, we need heavier weapons." "No," Lee said, raising her rifle. "We need to move." The first creature lunged. Lee fired a microburst shot, high velocity, needle precise. The alien's frontal armor cracked, then the creature toppled backward with a guttural snarl. Her Marines surged around her, firing in disciplined bursts. Blue-white streaks lit up the corridor. Karzul bodies slammed against shattered storefronts. "Zone secured," shouted a corporal. "Then don't stop," Lee ordered. "This city doesn't fall today." She moved like a force of nature, eyes sharp, breath steady, mind 3 seconds ahead of the battle. Every destroyed position, every wounded Marine, every evac route, she tracked them all. She had to. Humans survived because someone always stepped forward. Today, that someone was her. Orbit above Vantage 3 TDS Revenant. Admiral Rian Soren stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind him. His uniform was pristine despite the chaos outside the viewport, where explosions shimmered in silent fury against the starfield. A tactician called out, "Admiral, Karzul flagship attempting to reposition. They're drawing their auxiliary ships into a defensive wall." Soren's voice remained steady. "They're trying to shield their drive core. They want to cut and run." "Orders, sir." Soren looked at the tactical overlay, then at the planet below, a planet burning, a planet full of civilians, a planet the Karzul had decided was theirs to slaughter. "Bring the Indomitable and Soul's Wrath into flanking positions," he said. "And target the flagship spine. Break it." The gunnery chief hesitated. "Sir, the spine shot will split their ship clean in half." "I'm aware. No chance of survival." Soren's eyes hardened. "They gave none to our people." Moments later, the Revenant's superlance fired again, a pure beam of retaliatory energy. The Karzul flagship's midsection glowed molten hot, metal screaming in silent space. Cracks spiderwebbed across its armor. Then, crack-thump, the alien dreadnought split open like a gutted beast, spewing debris into orbit. Cheers erupted across the human bridge. Soren didn't smile. "Continue fire. Eliminate escape craft." He didn't enjoy it. But humanity had rules. You don't attack our colonies. You don't touch our civilians. You don't start a fight you can't win. Vantage 3 Surface, Outer Arc Spire District. Lee's squad pushed past the shattered transit station, stepping over debris and flickering hollow panels. Smoke drifted through sunlight in swirling patterns. Corporal Juno pointed ahead. "Commander!" Long-range scans picking up a Karzul warbeast inbound. "Big one." Lee exhaled. "How big?" The pavement cracked. A monstrous, four-legged armored beast, 3 meters tall, barreled around the corner. It roared, plates shifting, toxin sacs pulsing under its carapace. Marines aimed. "Hold," Lee muttered. The beast lowered its head. "Commander?" "Not yet." It charged. Lee slammed her exoboots into the ground, bracing herself. She waited until the beast was close enough that she could see the reflection of her visor in its plated skull. Then she fired. No scatterburst. No explosive round. Just one clean, compact, electromagnetic shot directly into the thing's mouth as it roared. The creature skidded, legs buckling, collapsing into a mountain of steaming alien flesh. A stunned silence fell. A Marine whispered, "Holy hell!" Lee flicked her rifle's safety. "Move. We don't have time to admire my work." Karzul Ground Command. Ruined factory sector. General Kvar hissed as he watched his forces fall back on every front. A subordinate scuttled up. "General! Human reinforcements have landed. Heavy exoarmors. Mech units. They are punching through Sector 12. Kvar snarled. "Impossible. Their fleet only arrived minutes ago. How could they already deploy ground units?" Humans deploy while still in upper atmosphere, General. Their drop pods are built for." "Silence." Kvar slammed a clawed fist into the console. "These mammals are reckless. Irrational. Illogical." Another officer cowered. "Worse, General. Their retaliation fleet destroyed our flagship." Kvar froze. The room went silent. Then he screeched in fury, tail slamming the floor. "We must show them the price of defiance. Ready the plasma scorcher. We will cleanse the arc spire completely." Even the other Karzul recoiled. That weapon would vaporize several city blocks, including their own soldiers. But Kvar didn't care. Retreat was dishonor. Losing to prey was death. Lower Arc Spire Plaza, 10 minutes later. Lee's team had just finished securing another cluster of civilians when her comm burst to life. "Commander, urgent. Sensors show Karzul arming a superweapon. Massive energy buildup in the factory sector." Lee stiffened. What kind of weapon? Unknown. Energy profile indicates city-level threat, ma'am. Lee turned to her Marines. We're moving. Now. They sprinted through the rubble, leaping over broken skybridge segments. Overhead, mech units slammed down from drop escorts, landing with explosive grace. A Titan-class mech pilot hailed her. Commander Ariston. Heard your people needed some heavy metal. Glad you're late to the party, she said. Come on, we're about to crash something ugly. Factory sector, superweapon site. The plasma scorcher glowed like a miniature sun, its energy core pulsing brighter and brighter. Karzul engineers scrambled around it, chanting war hymns. General Kvar raised his arms. Let the humans burn. A voice echoed from above. Not today. The Karzul looked up just in time to see a Titan mech land atop the Scorcher platform in an explosion of metal. The shockwave hurled aliens in every direction. Lee sprinted past the falling debris. Marines. Secure the platform. Gunfire erupted. The alien engineers fell. Kvar lunged forward, claws bared, but Lee intercepted him mid-charge, slamming into him with a shoulder strike that sent both skidding across the platform. You! Kvar spat. You weak, unarmored mammal. You think you can fight the Karzul? Lee wiped a streak of blood from her cheek. I'm human. She smashed a fist across his mandibles. We don't break. She kicked him back toward the glowing scorcher. And we don't lose. Her final blow sent him toppling into the unstable core. The scorcher overloaded instantly. Everyone down! Lee yelled. The explosion lit the sky. But the humans were already moving. The war for Vantage 3 was no longer a battle. It was a broadcast. Every major power block across the Orion Spur intercepted the same encrypted Terran burst. Protocol Blackstar enacted. Hostile invaders engaged. Retaliation underway. Dozens of alien nations suddenly stopped what they were doing. Fleets paused mid-jump. Warlords and diplomats leaned closer to their displays. The Karzul had terrorized fringe worlds for centuries. No mercy, no negotiations, only conquest. But no one had ever struck a Terran colony this directly. Now the galaxy watched, breath held, wondering. Would the humans fall? Or would they become something the galaxy feared? They got their answer within hours. Vantage 3, Factory Sector ruins. The superweapons explosion had carved a crater the size of a stadium into the factory district. Heat shimmered above molten metal. The smell of scorched alien flesh lingered in the smoke-thick air. Commander Lee Ariston wiped sweat from her brow, her armor cracked, her ribs aching with every breath. Still, she stood tall, because the fight wasn't finished. Corporal Juno approached. Commander, scouts confirm General Kvar is dead. The Scorcher is gone. Good, Lee said. But we're not done. The Karzul don't stop just because you break their toys. As if on cue, a transmission cut through the static. A deep, gravelly voice she recognized instantly. Terran Commander. I am Vrixith. You killed one of our warriors. We are coming for you. Lee smirked. Get in line. Another Marine rushed up. Commander. Orbital scans show multiple Karzul pods descending toward Inner Arc Spire. They're aiming for the civilian vault. Lee didn't wait. Move out. Full sprint. Orbit Karzul Remnant Fleet. Commander Vrixith, shaken by the destruction of his flagship but too proud to admit fear, clutched the edge of a tactical holodable as his surviving ships formed a ragged diamond formation. These humans, he snarled. They attack without hesitation, without restraint. It is barbaric. Rauxer, wounded and trembling, nodded. Exalted One, perhaps we retreat and regroup? Retreat. Vrixith slammed him to the floor with a swipe of his claws. From mammals who barely left their cradle? We will crush them, even if we must kill them by hand. Another officer hissed. Exalted One, Terran dreadnoughts are breaking through our flanks. We cannot hold. Vrixith bared his fangs. Then we take their commander. We break their spirit. Prepare the drop elite. He pointed at the planet below. That human will die screaming. Inner arc spire, civilian vault entrance. As Lee's Marines approached the vault entrance, a wave of terrified civilians poured out, mothers clinging to children, engineers dragging wounded colleagues, elders supported on both sides. A teenage girl ran up to Lee, tears streaking soot down her face. "Commander, they're inside." Lee's heart dropped. "How many?" "A dozen, maybe more. They broke in through the maintenance shafts." Of course they had. The Karzul were monstrous but not stupid. Lee signaled her squad. "Form a wall. Shield the civvies. Titan team, take the flank." A Titan mech knelt behind the civilians, raising its deployable energy shield, a shimmering blue barrier that cast shifting light across fearful faces. Lee inhaled. "Marines. With me." They pushed into the vault. Inside the vault was a massive subterranean dome with stacked habitation cylinders surrounding a central plaza. Panic echoed off steel walls. And there, towering over smashed furniture and scattered medical crates, stood the Karzul elite strike team. Each warrior was twice the size of a human soldier, armored in black chitin mesh, toxin claws dripping acid. Their leader hissed, "We claim your brood. Surrender them, and we will kill you swiftly." Lee stepped forward alone. "My brood." She raised an eyebrow. "I don't have kids." The Karzul leader tilted his head. "We refer to your species. Your people." "Oh." Lee cracked her knuckles. "Then the answer is still no." The aliens lunged. The battle erupted in seconds. Marines fired disciplined crossbursts, tearing into chitin. Karzul warriors leapt onto upper walkways, claws screeching across metal. One lifted a Marine bodily and threw him into a wall. Lee sprinted up a staircase, diving under a swipe, rolling to her feet, slamming her rifle but into an alien's mandible. It screeched. She shot it through the jaw. A second warrior grabbed her from behind, claws digging into her armor. She slammed her head backward, cracking its faceplate, then twisted and fired a point-blank burst into its throat. Her squad fought like demons, but the Karzul were powerful, relentless, utterly murderous. A Titan mech burst through the vault entrance just in time, smashing two aliens aside with its armored fist. But then everything turned. The ceiling trembled. A massive Karzul drop pod drilled straight down through the upper dome, molten metal raining like sparks. It hit the ground with a quake. The door blasted off, and Vrixith stepped out. Twice the size of any Karzul warrior. Dark armor etched with bone trophies. Eyes burning with the fury of a cornered god. He pointed a claw at Lee. "You, Terran. Killer of my warriors." Lee raised her weapon. "Guilty." Vrixith roared and charged. The duel. The civilians watched in terror as their commander met the alien warlord head-on. Vrixith swung a claw the size of a sword. Lee slid under it, firing bursts up into his chest plates. Sparks and alien blood flew, but Vrixith barely flinched. He kicked her straight across the plaza. She hit a pillar hard enough to dent it. A Marine screamed, "Commander!" Lee shoved herself up. Pain lanced down her side. Something was cracked, maybe several somethings. She spat blood. "Still here." Vrixith loomed over her. "You fight well for prey." Lee grabbed a fallen plasma cutter and ignited it. "Guess you misread the food chain." She dove in, slashing at his joints. Vrixith roared as the superheated blade carved through the gaps in his armor. He retaliated, sending her flying again, but this time she landed in a skid and rolled to her feet. Vrixith lunged. Lee jumped sideways, catching a support beam, swinging herself upward. She pushed off it in a zero-G assisted leap, landing square on his back. He bucked wildly. She held on, teeth gritted, jamming the cutter deeper. Vrixith screamed. He fell to his knees. Lee dropped behind him, panting, blade still in hand. "Humans don't run," she whispered. "We retaliate." She drove the cutter through his spine. Vrixith collapsed with a thunderous crash. The vault went silent. Then, cheers erupted. Marines pumped fists. Civilians sobbed with relief. The Titan mech saluted her with a metal fist to chest. Lee stood over the fallen warlord, exhausted, battered, but undefeated. Status, she gasped. A Marine ran up. Commander, Karzal forces across the planet are breaking. They're retreating to their remaining ships. Lee nodded. Good. Let them. Admiral Soren will deal with the rest. Orbit, Terran Hammerfall. Admiral Soren watched the Karzal remnants flee toward the dark side of the planet. His eyes were cold. Pursue. Do not let a single warship escape. Aye, Admiral. The Terran fleet surged forward. The retaliation was far from over. The galaxy, watching silently, began to understand. Humans were not victims. Humans were not prey. Humans were the wrong species to provoke. And Vantage 3 was only the beginning. The solstice emerged from quantum slip space with the silent fury of something ancient finally waking up angry. Captain Mara Vance stood at the tactical table, arms folded, eyes hard. She didn't blink once as the holographic projection displayed the Korthor Dominion's forward command fortress, Kraxus Hold, a floating metal continent wrapped in particle shields and bristling with weapons meant to intimidate entire fleet. It had intimidated every species in the galaxy. Except humans. Not tonight. Range? Mara asked. 2.6 light minutes, Lieutenant Ramos replied. They haven't spotted us. Our scattershell makes us look like a rock fragment. Good. Let's teach them what Earth does to those who burn our outposts. The bridge wasn't silent. No human warship ever was. The crew didn't whisper, didn't cower, didn't recite fear protocols like other species. They buzzed, adrenaline alive, ready. Because retaliation wasn't cruelty. It was justice. The Korthor Command. Inside Kraxus Hold, the Korthor war commanders lounged around their holomap. Grand Marshal Irask kicked a human helmet across the floor, a trophy taken from a burned-out human outpost weeks ago. They begged, Irask growled, voice like rocks grinding. Tiny creatures. Too fragile to exist. The room filled with guttural laughter. Then the lights dimmed. A single alarm blared. A single word flashed on every console. Contact. Irask's amusement evaporated. What? At this range? Unknown object, Grand Marshal. No, wait, it's a human warship. The staff froze. That was impossible. Humans weren't supposed to come here. They weren't even supposed to know where Kraxus Hold was located. Irask bared his teeth. One ship? They dare send only one? Destroy it. But the tech beside him trembled. Sir, it's not attacking. It's transmitting. Irask snarled. Put it through. A hologram shimmered into view. A human woman. Calm. Cold. Eyes like a blade. Captain Mara Vance. Grand Marshal, she said, voice quiet but carrying iron. You killed 200 civilians on Outpost E9. You left their bodies unburied. You broadcast your cruelty. Did you think this would go unanswered? Irask grinned. I defeated your people once. I will do so again. Mara tilted her head just slightly. No, she said. You will not. Transmission ended. Irask roared. Fire all. His words died in his throat. The holomap flickered again. Not one ship. 18. One by one, the rest of the human strike fleet decloaked like wolves surrounding a wounded bull. The hammer drops. Back aboard the Solstice, Mara raised her hand. Phase 1. Go. Lieutenant Ramos slammed his palm onto the console. Space warped as humanity's newest weapon activated, something the rest of the galaxy believed was only a prototype. The Orbital Mass Driver Array. Humanity's answer to planetary annihilation. Not exotic energy. Not star-cracking beams. Just physics. Pure, ancient, unstoppable physics. A 10-ton tungsten spear materialized in the loading chamber. Dropping payload, Ramos said. Trajectory locked, said Gunnery Chief Hale. Release. The spear fell. There was no flash. No beam. It simply vanished into slip gravity and reappeared 30 kilometers above Kraxus' hold. Erask's command deck windows turned white. The impact. The tungsten rod hit the fortress shield at Mach 40. The shield held, for exactly 0.8 seconds. Then it collapsed in a sphere of shattered blue light. The rod punched through the fortress wall like a god's finger through wet clay. The entire left wing of Kraxus' hold went supernova, explosions chaining through fuel lines, ammo bays, and reactor conduit. On the solstice, Hale whispered, "Impact confirmed." Mara didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She simply said, "Phase 2. Punch them." The human charge. Human frigates dove in, engines screaming like demons unleashed. Korthor fighters scrambled, firing wildly, but human ships moved with impossible precision, slipping through kill zones with micro-warp hops, another prototype humans had supposedly not mastered. They just hadn't told anyone. Boarding pods launched like bullet. Marines shot through space in armored capsules, slamming into the fortress hull. Magnetic claws dug in. Hatches burst open. Humans spilled inside like thunder with rifles. But the real shock wasn't their weapons. It was how they fought. The Korthor expected rage, screaming, bloodlust. Instead, humans fought like quiet, methodical retribution. A Korthor warrior lifted his plasma axe, and a marine slid under it, firing 2 precise shots into joint. The alien fell with a crash. Another charged, roaring, and a marine sidestepped, grabbed his throat, and used his own momentum to break his neck with surgical efficiency. Korthor fear spread like contagion. "They are small but they do not stop," shouted one commander. "They move like death. They do not fear us. Why do they not fear us?" Erask's last stand. The doors to the command center exploded inward. Erask spun, roaring, but his strike bounced off a human combat shield. Mara Vance stepped through the smoke. Erask froze. You dare come here in person? You made it personal." Erask swung his war staff, a weapon taller than a man. Mara's wrist blades ignited. Steel met plasma. The clash rang like a bell. Erask pushed forward, snarling. "You are weak." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Humanity isn't weak. We're underestimated." She slipped under his blow, drove a blade into his rib plates, twisted, and kicked him backward into a collapsing console. Erask stumbled, bleeding glowing green ichor. "You can't stop the Dominion," he rasped. "We already did," Mara said. She pressed a button on her wrist. Outside, human ships withdrew to safe distance. Inside the fortress, planted charges blinked in synchronized rhythm. Mara turned her back to him and walked away. Erask lunged. Too slow. The marine beside her fired a single shot through his throat. The fall of Kraxus' hold. The fortress detonated. The shock wave expanded into space in a colossal fireball, debris scattering like burning ash. Human ships rode the edge of the blast, shields flaring, engines straining. When the light faded, nothing remained of Korthor control in this region. A voice crackled across the fleet channel. "Outpost E9 is avenged." The bridge of the solstice erupted in relieved cheers, exhausted laughter, quiet tears. Mara finally allowed herself one breath. One moment. Then she said, "Prepare for Phase 3. The crew quieted. "Phase 3? Ramos asked carefully. Mara looked at the stars ahead, toward Korthor space. Kraxus' hold was just the beginning. "We took their sword." Her voice hardened. "Now we break their spine." Korthor Prime, capital world of the Dominion, had never gone dark in 9,000 years. Its sky was a permanent blaze of neon constellations. Its air swelled with the hum of orbital docks, defense grids, and fleets so large they cast shadows on continents. And its people believed, truly believed, that no enemy would ever reach them. Because to reach Korthor Prime, you had to pass 7 defensive lines, 3 hyperwalls, and a fleet of 50,000 warships. Impossible, untouchable, eternal. Or it was, until tonight. The human fleet breaches Hyperwall Sigma. On the bridge of the solstice, red tactical holograms lit the air like a war shrine. Sigma Hyperwall will destabilize in 60 seconds. Lieutenant Ramos shouted over the rising hum of systems maxing out. The ship vibrated as slip disruptors overclocked. Blue arcs of energy webbed across the hull like lightning trapped under skin. Human ships weren't built for pretty. They were built to break rules. Hold it together. Mara barked. Trying, Captain, but space is screaming at us. The bridging of Hyperwall Sigma, a barrier whose creation nearly collapsed 3 stars, was considered impossible. But humans didn't do impossible. They did necessary. 3, 2, 1. Hyperwall breach. The universe twisted sideways, then snapped back. The solstice burst through into a calm starfield, and directly into the center of the Corther Prime defense fleet. Thousands of Corther ships froze in shock. Ramos laughed breathlessly. Captain, we did it. We're in. Mara Vance didn't smile. Broadcast fleet-wide, she ordered. The comms officer nodded. Mara stepped forward, voice rising like steel drawn from a scabbard. Humanity. This is it. No more outposts burned. No more civilians slaughtered. No more pretending we are weak. Today we end the Dominion. Today we show them who we really are. Her words carried across every human ship. Engage. The Dominion reels. Chaos detonated across the void. Human frigates blinked across space using microwarp slides, appearing inside Corther formations, shredding ships with precision fire, then vanishing before return volleys could land. Corther war cruisers fired in dense walls of plasma. Human battle carriers tilted on their axis like dancers, letting fire skim shields before striking back with rail lances whose rounds hit so hard they rippled vacuum. Inside their command citadel, the Corther High Council panicked. "Where is Grand Marshal Irask?" one counselor screamed. "Dead. Reports indicate he was killed in the assault on Craxus Hold." "Impossible. How did they get there? How did they get here?" They were supposed to be a last-tier, proto-faster-than-light race. The room filled with terrified whispers, each one ending the same way. Humans evolved too fast. The superweapon that wasn't. Human ships dove towards Corther Prime's final defense. The planetary cage array, a defense ring of 20 moon-sized fortresses. "Captain," Hale warned, "the cage array can vaporize fleets." "It won't," Mara said softly. "You have a plan?" Ramos asked. "I have gravity." The array charged, its colossal emitters glowing red. The Solstice's engines flared. The ship tilted, nose down, and fired its entire reactor output into its own slip core. Captain," Hale said, gripping his seat, "we are about to break fundamental physics." "Again," Mara said. Space bucked. A localized gravity inversion tore outward from the solstice, catching the array's firing sequence mid-charge. Instead of blasting the human fleet, the 20 fortresses fired upon each other. A chain reaction of detonations rippled around the planet like a necklace of dying suns. The Council watched the live feed in silent horror. They turned our defense ring into a suicide circle. "Who does that?" "The humans." Descent to the capital. With the planet stripped of orbital defenses, the solstice led the descent. Corther Prime skies lit with atmospheric fire as drop pods streaked downward like burning hail. Thousands. Millions. Humanity's wrath made manifest. Inside her command pod, Mara secured her armor, the plates locking with mechanical finality. "Touchdown in 30, Ramos said beside her. "Captain, after this, there's no going back." Mara inhaled. "Good." The pod smashed into the ground. The doors blew outward, and humans flooded the capital. The final confrontation. The Corther Citadel loomed like a mountain carved into a throne. Human Marines breached the front gates, cutting through armored elites with disciplined, silent efficiency. Mara led from the front. Inside the Citadel throne chamber, the High Warlord himself stood waiting, nearly 4 meters tall, armored in living alloy, eyes glowing with antimatter fury. "You dare violate the heart of the Dominion?" he roared. Mara stepped forward, helmet retracting. Her human face reflected in his armor. "Your Dominion violated ours." The warlord charged. The impact shook the chamber, floor cracking beneath them. Mara parried with twin blades, sparks spraying. He swung again, shattering a column. Mara ducked, slid beneath him, and drove both blades into his abdomen. He roared, grabbing her and hurling her across the room. Her armor slammed into a wall with bone-shaking force. He stomped forward. "Humans," he snarled, "are nothing." Mara stood, wiping blood from her lip. Her eyes burned cold. "We're the species you should have never woken." She hit the detonator on her wrist. Charges planted throughout the citadel pulsed. The warlord froze. "You wouldn't dare. This is the seat of our empire." Mara stepped close enough for him to see his own reflection in her eyes. "We're ending your empire." And then the world exploded. The aftermath. Human ships hovered above the burning remains of the citadel. Signals across Corther space went silent. The Dominion, once feared across 11,000 systems, collapsed in a single night. A broadcast went out. Mara stood before the galaxy, armor scratched, eyes steady. "This is Captain Mara Vance of Earth. We did not seek war. We did not seek vengeance. But we will never, ever, allow another power to strike humanity without consequence." Her voice echoed across thousands of worlds. "If you want peace, good. If you want alliance, better. But if you come for us again," her gaze hardened, "you will learn even faster than the Dominion did." Epilogue. The galaxy watches. Across countless star systems, species stared at their screens in stunned silence. Humans, small, fragile, underestimated humans, had toppled one of the oldest empires in existence, not with superweapons, not with magic technology, with discipline, with physics, with stubborn, relentless will. And for the first time, the galaxy feared humanity, and respected them. The message was clear. Earth wasn't prey. Earth was the storm.